in countries in Africa once per week, and how the black face and the black body was used to deceive black people on the continent of Africa, and how they bought into that Obama situation. Obama was more like it. Obama was literally strengthened to the extent deeply entrenched now more than ever, because African countries and African presidents were resisting AFRICOM. Lots of African countries had said that they would not put an AFRICOM headquarters anywhere in their country. The people of Africa didn't want it. The government didn't want it. The politicians didn't want AFRICOM. But then what Obama, one of us he was. And he got the African presidents and the African people to militarize themselves. This is how it works. And so we weren't surprised when we saw the head of AFRICOM earlier this month, General Michael Langley, accusing Ibrahim Traore, who through a revolution took charge of Burkina Faso in the name of the people of Burkina Faso, because another black face in black body in Burkina Faso, and he wasn't the first one, many before him, was systemically and systematically selling the people, the people's labor, the people's land, the people's minerals to France, to the colonizer. Poverty in Burkina Faso, phenomenal. A country that's so rich in minerals, in gold. And so we have the Arab countries coming in and taking the gold. We actually are seeing a report coming out of Burkina Faso last week, about that very thing. And we had France in total control of everything. We're just hearing today, for example, that, or this late last week, that just the road networks in Burkina Faso, all of that was given to French companies, France-owned companies, and that they were charging the government 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 times the cost of building those roads. So that was the going rate. So that Ibrahim Traore has already kicked them out and has taken charge of that, and we see what's happening with the road network in Burkina Faso. The work is going very smoothly, very fast. And we saw millions also coming out on April 30 and marching in support of Ibrahim Traore. Langley accusing Traore during a U.S. Senate committee hearing of using Burkina Faso's gold reserves to benefit Burkina Faso, to benefit the government of Burkina Faso. And he said that Ibrahim Traore was using the gold to protect himself. But of course, to protect himself from the coups, to protect himself from France and the United States, which they also kicked out, by the way. So we heard that argument before. African people around the world, we are sensitive to that argument, because these are the kinds of arguments they have been using over time before they go in and kill our liberators. So African people, organically, if you ask most people, they don't know who made the first call for April 30. They do not know who made the first call for April 30. And so around the world, African people spontaneously, because a lot of us didn't have more than 3 days, 2 days. I announced it here that there was this call for Wednesday last week, Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 2 days. 2 days. Some people had 3 days. The RMO on the island here in Jamaica, they were in the studio with me a few weeks back, rallied immediately and rallied Rastafari. And for myself and others, we were integral to the rallying call, rallying Pan-Africanists, rallying Jamaican people. And granted, many Jamaicans didn't come out. And I know it's not because you didn't want to, because I heard from you before and I see you all over the social media asking where in Jamaica is a march, where in Jamaica is a protest, where do we go, how do we go? So people were just taking pictures from their living rooms, from their gardens, from yard and backyard, from them step. And this was happening all over the world, by the way, because this was such an organic, spontaneous protest in support of Ibrahim Traore, but against AFRICOM and Langley in particular, to say, get your hands off Burkina Faso. Take your mind out of the gold pits of Burkina Faso. Leave Ibrahim Traore alone. Our life, our livelihoods, our survival, that as African people, we have been living with this definition and demarcation that the devil made for us. We're living as if it was done by we ourselves. This is, and we've got the power, to make the change. We've got the power. Africa is the richest country, the richest continent on the face of the earth. We can exist just by being ourselves without borders. But here we are. It is quite a shame. But I digress. Just to come back to say, so we have this African situation, and here on the island, as with so many other countries, and in solidarity with Burkina Faso and so many other countries, we marched. We made a decision, my husband and myself, to cut through the belly of the country, go down the hill, and head to Sam Sharp Square, to the brethren and sistren who gathered in Sam Sharp Square. Good morning, greetings. And you'll hear more about that as time goes by. But just to say, what a gathering. I'm happy that I was there, because sometimes we have to take our physical bodies to the spaces to make a change. If we can't, then we do it from where we are. Spaces are virtual now to a large extent, and so we can do it in many, many ways. But there are times, for me, when I feel that I really do need to take my physical form to the space. Spiritually, we are always there. And for those who couldn't make it to a physical space, no less, because you've been doing it on the internet, you've been doing it digitally, you've been posting, you ensured, and I'm talking globally, that even on that day, and I can see that this is an ongoing campaign, but even on that day, across the world, there was hardly anyone who could have gone on their phones, internet-wise, and not see that the world was in solidarity with Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso, and that this would not be another Gaddafi. This would not be another Patrice Lumumba. This would not be another Thomas Sankara, not on our watch. Is to say, no more. No more. No more killing our liberators. No more killing our freedom fighters and taking our land. We say this specifically to France and secondly to the United States of America. But we've got to be really pointed right now with our energies. And this is how we're doing. Ibrahim Traore is on the move again in the Sahel. And we're liking what we're seeing. However you look at it, however you take it, this is a moment of change. And we're welcoming this change. Let me take a break. It's Child Month on the island. Yes, we're paying some attention to that. Very interested in what we're seeing coming out of Jamaica. Don't know if you saw the newspaper article that spoke to what's happening in Jamaica now regarding, let me see if I can find that, the Jamaica Gleaner. I think it was published on May 1. The headline, Children Under Fire. More than 150 children under age 17 were murdered, while just over 4,000 were sexually assaulted in Jamaica over the 5-year period that ended last year. And this is according to the National Coordinator for Child Month activities. So we're celebrating Child Month, we're observing Child Month. We need to begin to celebrate our children. And the theme in Jamaica is Act Now, Stand Against Child Abuse and Exploitation. The article continues that approximately 500,000 students traverse Jamaica's roadways daily. And this is according to Dr. Kassan Troop, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Between 2020 and 2024, a total of 168 children, 17 years old and under, were killed across Jamaica, while another 351 suffered gunshot injuries. Nicole Patrick Shaw, who is a chairperson of the National Child Month Committee, gave out that information. This is alarming, to say the least. To say the least. The data showed, too, that 1,439 children were victims of rape, while 2,576 were victims of other sexual offenses, mainly sexual intercourse with a person under 16 years old. Some 253 of the child rape victims were between 3 and 10 years old. This is what the breakdown of the data shows. A further 43,312 cases of child abuse, an average of 60 reports per day, were recorded by the Child Protection and Family Services Agency over the 2-year period ending in December 2020. And so many are not reporting, because this is an epidemic on the island of Jamaica. Child abuse, incest, sexual exploitation. This is an epidemic. And we're going to throw in, because it is critical that we do that, human trafficking, sex trafficking of children here in Jamaica. We roll these statistics out every May. For what? To what purpose? It bothers me. We've been talking about this for too long. For too long. For too long. Many years ago in this space, just to remind you of when we first raised the alarm against this in 1998. Because we raised a question then. There's a reason why I posed that question in 1998, and every year since 1998, at least 3 or 4 or 5 times I've posed this philosophical question. It's not mine. But because we were doing more than talking on the radio, we were reaching out to the agencies. We were reaching out to the various governments. We've seen governments come and go. It doesn't matter which political party. The statistics remain the same in that they escalate every year. And we roll them out every year. And we have press conferences and clink our glasses and drink our champagne. So the philosophical question that I posed in 1998 and so many times after that, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it still make a sound? I pose that question within the context of child abuse in Jamaica, rape, incest, sexual assault against women and girls. It was within that context that I posed that question. And I know people raise it to me all the time to say, I have the answer. You meet me all over Jamaica and you say, I have the answer. And you want to have a conversation with me about it. And sometimes, even after I've raised that question and come off, you're texting and you're writing and you're talking about this. But I raise it within the context, this very context, of human trafficking, sex trafficking, rape, incest, sexual assault, sexual deviancy against children, women and girls on this island. And I still ask that. Because at the time, not even civil society, which is really not so civil unless they're getting funding to talk about this issue. You make somebody throw some money at the topic of sex trafficking, human trafficking, child abuse, incest, rape, and so on. Make somebody throw some US dollars at civil society. And you see how quickly it permeates the space. I've been in this space for a very long time. I am not going to hold my tongue. Because everything demands, in Jamaica, funding. And the first thing that too many of our people do is to say, how can I get a paper published out of this suffering? How can I get funding out of this suffering? How can I observe this suffering, write about this suffering, and get it published in an academic journal, and come back and look at the suffering again next year to write another paper so that I can get a professorship or speaking engagement? We're going to have to begin to tell ourselves some truths about why we are where we are as a nation. Because everything comes at a cost and a price, and it doesn't matter. And those who you think are standing with you and for you, I'm talking about societies or parts of a society that are suffering in various different ways. That, not really. Not if there's no funding. If there's no funding, it remains a matter to look at again, but not really of any great significance. So we noticed in 1998, because we started a program. So I went to a funeral in 1997, and it was deep in the belly of Jamaica. And it's a funeral for a very young person, well, a young adult. And I sat in this country church where a lot of young girls were sitting at the bench before me. And I've spoken about this many times over the years. I've never said which church or where, which parish. But when they got up, I recognized, when we stood for the hymns, that we were not talking about sexually transmitted infections in Jamaica, that it was too secretive, that young people didn't have the information that they needed, that our young girls didn't have the information. Whatever was happening in the schools, I don't know. But it was obvious to me that sexually transmitted infections and other vaginal infections, that we weren't talking about that. It was all Greek to us. I came back here and I said to Mr. Young, I just experienced something. I know what it is. I'm sitting in the church and that situation was terrible. So we need to take responsibility as the number one station in Jamaica to create a space that our young people can tune in and listen to without judgment. And we can give them information in return and provide a space also for them to speak with doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists and gynecologists and urologists and you name it. A wide range of experts we carried into the space and ran that program for decades. It was during those programs that young people began to open up to me about what they were experiencing regarding incest, child abuse, rape, and everything on that trajectory, including sex trafficking. We called the ministry. We called all ministries, but let me talk about a particular case where I got so much information about sex trafficking and the sex trafficking ring, but that the people who were being trafficked were mainly, at the time, and this is what we found out even through our research, what we on the island call go-go dancers. They were calling themselves exotic dancers, but a lot of them were sex trafficked. And they were telling me confidentially that I am here doing this, but I'm not here on my own free will. I can't, when I'm done, I can't move from here. And they told me what was happening. But then they also told me about the international ring that connected back to these spaces and how they were trafficked across the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic, Dominica, Trinidad. And also how they were trafficked in Latin America, South America, Colombia, Venezuela, and other countries, Panama. And we had all of that information. And we called the various ministries involved, and we remember in particular the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the time told us that they have no designation on their books for exotic dancers. And so they can't go in search of something that they do not have a designation for that category of worker. There's nothing they can do about people who are exotic dancers who are traversing the Caribbean. Traversing the Caribbean. This is what we were every year for Child Month. They're rolling these figures out, these statistics. And I'm not sure to what end and for what reason. And what are we supposed to do with the numbers? Why is it that we have known this for so long? Long before 1997, 1998, when we started pointing it out to you. Do you know, we have had every single minister up until recently of the relevant agencies on the phone in the studio. We've had the heads of the agencies. I remember that in 2001, 2002, the conversation we were having is, how do you centralize these agencies? You're dealing with that. You're dealing with that. You're dealing with that. Why is it that you are not corresponding? We were going around the island, you know. I am saying this could take all morning. But here is the thing. They have always known. They have always known. And I put it to you, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this because this requires some plain speaking. And for the sake of our children, let us speak plainly. Too many people who are managers and heads of boards and heads of organizations and politicians over time, too many themselves have been pedophiles and molesting our children and involved in pedophilia. And this is why I feel we are where we are today. Because too many people in authority have been involved in this travesty against our children. And it is Child Month. This is the article I haven't finished. You know, the article has a subheading, Startling Findings. Jamaica's first ever violence against children survey, published by the Planning Institute of Jamaica last November, produced some startling result in terms of what is happening with our children. And we are told that the reason why the theme is selected this year is because of that. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. We need to get over ourselves. This is a problem I find with Jamaica's technocrats. Everybody all up in themselves. Let us cut out the press conferences and go and do the work. The United States State Department published a few months ago the Trafficking in Persons report on Jamaica. And we've been going through this. It talks specifically to the challenges, the problems, but also the advancements. What is being done to combat human trafficking. I know that here in Jamaica, only when funding is thrown at this island, only when funding is thrown at the ministry, and there is a global directive from the World Economic Forum or some other space that feeling them conscience, and them not really have any, but you know how it is. It's gonna make them look good for a minute. That only then you see this big hula baloo about human trafficking, and it's all over the place. So, in the report, which is available on the U.S. White House government website, it says that children in Jamaica are subjected to various forms of trafficking, including sex trafficking, forced labor, domestic servitude, and forced criminal activities such as gang involvement and lottery scamming. They estimated that about 6.3% of children aged 12 to 17 have experienced or currently experiencing conditions indicative of human trafficking. Children, 12 to 17. Boys, it says, are more frequently exploited in forced labor and criminal activities, while girls are more often victims of sex trafficking and domestic servitude. It talks about Jamaica remaining at Tier 2 and the government's effort, so it's interesting to read that. It says, while the government does not fully meet the minimum standards for eliminating trafficking, it is making significant efforts to do so. Don't fully meet the minimum standards for eliminating trafficking. This is Child Month, and you come up with a theme because you do a survey for the very first time a few months ago. These reports coming out of the United States are done yearly. And credibly enough, so what? We recognize specifically that during COVID, the situation, the real pandemic was not the so-called virus, but the forced sex slavery of children, sexual exploitation, sexual deviancy against children. That was a real pandemic that we never touched. Not really. I am not just a voice in the room, I bear witness to these truths. And now we are finding these truths buried behind and underneath statistics, under them reports and them bureaucratic hesitation. This is what we're finding. What's going to happen after this report? What's the plan now that you've put out this survey? What's the plan for our children? So May is Child Month in Jamaica. And we're all talking about Child Month. It should be a sacred time. Every month should be Child Month. We have to get beyond the slogans. I don't care what the theme is. Keep on a theme to yourself. We know what the problem is against Jamaican children. It's been so for a long time and it's getting worse every year, every day. What are we putting in place to protect the rights of our children? Where we have 6.3% of our children aged 12 to 17, our sons, our daughters. Either them living through it now, or they have survived the unimaginable horrors of sex trafficking, human trafficking. Let that sink in. This is not an abstract number. It is what's happening to our children, our young boys, teenagers, who are forced to run and carry message and gun for gang leaders. It is our 14-year-old girls, 13, 12, who are trafficked for sex. It is our children who are, some of them in state care, in the care of the government, who are re-traumatized by this very system that them say was meant to protect our children. It is Child Month on the island. And we hear the Tier 2 talk, The government remains on Tier 2 in the U.S. State Department's Trafficking in Persons report. It's making significant efforts to fight human trafficking. But we also saw in that report where it says the efforts are not enough when lives are being broken. We need resolve. We need results. So if it's righteous indignation or righteous rage, we're going to have to tap into it for our children. So this Child Month, once again, our children are not for sale, but they are being sold. Their dignity, their future, and we are the guilty. And who are the guilty? And as we have been saying since 1998, because the children, a lot of them who are adults now, and they can tell you, who have been talking to us every year since that. They know their abusers. And I put it to you again, that too many people, too many man and man in authority are involved in the sexual abuse of our children. This is not a lie. Politicians, you know yourself. Politicians, you know yourselves. People see you. Them see the houses where you have sideways this or over this, around this for this very same thing. Them see the young girls coming from school in them uniform, tapping at the house there, and I feel your place. Politicians, I want you to stand up in Parliament and speak out against pedophilia in Jamaica. I want you to stand up in Parliament and speak out against rape and incest and child abuse. Remember when we had a campaign here on this program called Me Go Ball Out? You remember that campaign? You remember when we asked women to band them belly and bawl, and asked the children to talk to us to ball out? It was about this when we said ball out. And the children did ball out. And not one case went to court. And the information was given to spaces like Sissoko and CDA. And now you stand up in your spaces, your sterile clinical spaces, talking about we've got a survey and the findings are startling. How are we going to do this? Every minute on a renewing on a call. Yeah, the Office of the Children's Advocate renewing a call. The CDA renewing a call. Sissoko renewing a call. What kind of whole heap of call? Then who has the right to go beyond the calls and do the work? Whose responsibility is it to move beyond the call and to do the work for our children? Who is responsible? So they say it's Child Month on the island. They say we are to act now and to stand against child abuse and exploitation. I say to them, Gwe. Gwe. That is Mandarin for go away. Let me do the calling this morning. No more press conferences on this thing. Necessary. Where are the children that you lost in COVID? How many of them were trafficked? Were them there? How many of the students who you say you couldn't find? Where are they? When they just like move on and go on like nothing happened, that nothing happened. You're just moving right along. Where are the families? Where are the fathers who were raping their daughters right throughout COVID and after COVID and before COVID? Who catching those children even at school? When them turn up at school and the teachers can look at them and see that these children are being sexually abused, because these are children, them underage, and do not tell me that the girls know what they're doing. Because this is another thing that Jamaican men used to protect them deviancy, but the young girls, them know it. I know I've heard it a lot. Well, there was a law, and the law said them don't know what them are do. Where are the fathers? Where are the uncles, the brothers, the nephews, the cousins who have been sexually violating their daughters, nieces, sisters? Talk to the teachers. They can say, we see, because we have experience with these children. We've been in the system for years. And even we're not sure, you need to have a look at this one. But it can't be the teacher's responsibility to catch the child that is being sexually abused. The teacher not trained for that. They can see it, but they need to report. Who they report to? I can tell you that the reporting is flawed. Flawed. Insidiously flawed. If you take up your phone and try to report this thing, try it. About Jeanette, she is well qualified to speak on the topic that we're going to go into, which is, you heard me read the letter last week, the press release, from JAMP, urging the Prime Minister to fulfill promises made on MP job description before general elections. Jeanette is joining me on the phone lines. Good morning, Jeanette Calder. How are you doing?
I'm great. This is my first Sunday morning interview, and I like it. I feel fresh at the start of the week, and I think I'm going to start lining them up for Sunday.
Yes, please do.
How are you doing?
Yes, I'm well, as long as
great.
you two are well, my sister.
Yeah, man.
All right. So we've been following the press release and also the survey that was done. But first of all, let us go right to the call and remind us of this promise made by the Prime Minister. When and what exactly did he say?
Yes, well, the Prime Minister, I don't mind saying the Prime Minister and his government had found themselves into quite a pickle, and that might even be a mild word, and rightly so, back in 22-23, when the matter, and an important matter, and the necessary matter of salaries, compensation for public officials came to the fore as a government policy. What are we going to do? How are we going to approach it? And how much we're going to give? I remember very clearly a promise made by the Minister of Finance that the public servants would be dealt with first, and then we would deal with the matter of the parliamentarians. That's the first promise that was broken. As you and your listeners know, we're still trying to iron out some matters for public servants, whereas the MPs were richly rewarded with a doubling, and in the case of some ministers, a tripling of their salaries. Now, let me say for your listeners that JAMP's position then and still is now that we supported the increase. What we did not support was a across-the-board increase for everybody, regardless of how you're performing. There is no organization, Kabu, you can go into, and anybody and everybody going to get an increase because people are performing differently. People are coming to work on time, some are not. Some are taking initiative, some are not. Some are meeting their objectives, some are not. And in the case of the parliamentarians, every Jackman Jamaican listening to me know that Jamaicans say, yo, from a vote fee, me no see him. How can that parliamentarian have gotten a doubling of the salary? Like some who are there in them constituencies every single week, like when I was in government and the minister who I reported to. Mm-hmm. So JAMP took offense and objection to the process, not the fact. And the reason we did not have a difficulty at all with the idea that the salary should be doubled, and is what we're going to get into a little bit more as we talk about the job description, is when I understand what an MP is required to do, and when I understand how important it is to the success of everybody's job and everybody's dream, then people that forget money. The question is, how can we tie it to performance?
But understanding what they're supposed to do, mm-hmm. and and when you in the context is totally different from what we have come to know. Absolutely. That they have done over time. So how could you support an increase and doubling of a salary, knowing what we were getting from these politicians?
Tied to performance, because there are, believe it or not, and this is one of the reasons I like the way we have decided to approach this NGO that I founded. It is on the back of facts and not presumption. Boy, Kabu, I have been surprised by a couple of things once we look for the facts. Mm-hmm. There are members of parliament who, as I said to you, show up in them constituency every week. And there are members of parliament who have up to a 95% attendance in the House. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, as a quick comparison to a few more, and I have no difficulty calling names when I get there, because I think that's important. There are some who have 37% attendance in the House for 4 years straight. Mm-hmm. Not one Jackman listening would have a job with a record like that. Mm-hmm. So the truth is, a quick example, I pay particular attention because JAMP is not looking at accountability, though that's in our name. Mm-hmm. We're looking at financial accountability. We believe that if we follow the money, Jamaica, any ministry will be better if we focus on the money. So that's where our focus is. Now, we therefore look every week at the committees in the House that review and monitor the spending of government. So the Public Accounts Committee. There are members there, Kabu and listeners, who I have never heard open their mouth. If they speak today in the House, I wouldn't recognize it. Mm-hmm. But there are members who, when you listen from the meeting start, the questions they're asking, yes, okay.
Yes.
You went home last night and read the report and make notes and come to do the job. So I am saying, for those of us who pay attention to Parliament, notice I never said the news. Because one of my grievances, Kabu, is news only carry the sensational stuff. They're not really going to see the thing. And I understand why. I just don't like it, but I understand why. So if you watch Parliament, you begin to realize, yeah, man, some people don't dare do the work, you know. And some are just complete shirkers and bench warmers. So that's the reason I would say to you, I have no difficulty with the doubling. I have a difficulty with the fact that performance had nothing whatsoever to do with it. That is madness. But back to your question of the promise the Prime Minister made. When the country, and rightly so, said this can't work, or we're going to have to go pay for this, the Prime Minister came out on 2 dates, and I want to provide the dates for your listeners. One, people who listen to this program serious about public affairs and serious about governance. So it's the May the 22nd, 2023, and June the 20th, 1 month later. The May the 22nd date, you can go to the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica, PBCJ, who records all the Parliament meetings. Put in that May 22nd, and you will find that post-cabinet press conference of the Prime Minister where all the promises were made as to how am I going to make it right for this doubling of the salary, and you're not happy about it. And then he went into the Parliament on June the 20th and repeated it. And what were some of those promises that the Prime Minister made? You might be really surprised. When I reviewed it, I was like, wow, I didn't even remember all of these. But the first one was job description.
Right.
I am going to, the Prime Minister actually said that this is something that would be implemented immediately.
I remember that.
And two, we share to him, and I'll come back to that. Let me just stick on the promises. A code of ethics. And this is a part of what would be immediate. A code of ethics to govern the conduct and the duties of MPs. He admitted that one was developed under the Patterson administration. What the Prime Minister is saying, we have enhanced that for the ministers and the MPs. So all we need to do now is to send it to Parliament so that they can review it, either accept it as it is, and I'm quoting the PM here, or they will make some objectives. But after that, the code of conduct will be enforced. Here's a third promise, which Jeanette loves. We will institute, I'm quoting the PM here, financial penalties for unexcused absences, and I can define that afterwards, from the sitting of Parliament and the committee meetings. He said MPs getting more pay. If they don't turn up, their pay will be docked, right? And he admitted that, you know, for the folks who don't know this is something we used to do in the past, but it will be reinstituted immediately, and the fines will be more meaningful. And here's a fourth one. Well, two last ones I'll share with you, which are also pretty exciting for me, who recognize that accountability is what governs performance. He said, each MP will provide a written accountability report to Parliament, highlighting what? Their activities that they've undertaken and their achievements. The kind of things, Kabu, that we do in private sector all the time. Special. But then he said, going beyond the state of constituency presentations in the House, there will be a more systematic approach, because these reports of accountability will be reviewed by a special committee of Parliament. And here's the beauty of it. The PM said, and will be accessible to the public for their review.
Right. So
training of MPs, special courses will be designed for MPs, including senators, and they must be completed within certain hours and certified in the practice of parliamentary affairs. And the last one, he said he himself is going to take accountability for these reports, starting, he said, the beginning of 2024, policy, legislative, and administrative targets of what they intend to achieve in a fiscal year will be submitted to the Parliament. And here's the important part now. He says we do this all the time, which is true, but it's indoors, in our retreats. What I will do now is ensure that I get the help of the public in monitoring and managing that, which means we now, Kabu, will know what those promises are every fiscal year, and he will be looking to us to help him to monitor and manage the performance of our MPs. How that sound as promises to you,
At the
Kabu?
time when he said it, we thought it was fanciful, and we still think that is a promise to a fool. So, but let me ask you. I know you, and thank the ancestors for JAMP, because you're doing a really good job at reminding the politicians of their promises, particularly the Prime Minister, and asking for accountability, even though you say financial accountability. But can we go through those promises then?
Sure.
Because I know you're making a call to say which promises made, promises kept, any of them at all?
None. Well, one started, none kept.
Can you talk us through those that haven't been, those that started? Or
Yes,
one started, the one that started?
The big is where the Prime Minister started. Now, when the Prime Minister said immediately, he did move immediately. He indicated to the public, say, a lot of you think that I put the cart before the horse in compensating first. I'm one of them. Guilty. It should be performance first and then you pay me.
Yes.
But he did say that the idea of a job description is not something he was providing because of the outcry. He said from 2019, and it's important that the listeners hear this, from 2019, I had made this a promise, and in 2021, I had gotten a draft. So he said in that case, I am in a position to immediately act on it, and he did. A draft was a draft job description for MPs and ministers, two separate documents, were tabled in the House in June of 2023. That's almost immediately. Really, not even, I think, 3 weeks passed and it was done. A joint select committee was set up to review it, and a joint select, for your listeners, automatically means that citizens will get an opportunity. It wouldn't just be the Parliament reviewing and deciding, but citizens could write in and say what they think. I remember sitting in my Christmas vacation, December 2023, working on my critique of the draft, which was not a bad draft. By the way, when I look at the one for the UK, which is the system we're all coming out of, the draft that Jamaica have is far better than the final document that's on the UK Parliament. So it started good.
Okay.
2 town hall meetings were held. I went to both, one virtual, one at Wolmer's Auditorium, and 2 meetings in the House. Since that day, in December of 2023, 15 months have passed, not one more meeting.
And the Prime Minister was writing his dissertation.
Might have been. But I must say that though I believe the Speaker of the House, that's the only thing I can tell you because that's the person who chaired the meetings, was the Speaker of the House, being Mrs. Holness, was chairing that joint select. Mrs. Holness wasn't doing her dissertation. So the Prime Minister should be in a position to say to his team, get this done. And they have the expectation that he not superintend it himself. But if he finds, and he should be checking up on it, this is a serious commitment because Kabu and listeners, a $1.5 billion extra we spending on the last 2 years since I raised the, So it would never spend $1.5 billion extra. Not extra. The total. The total is about 3. But the extras is about 1.5 billion. So I'm saying to you, if we spent that money, we want something in return. And the job descriptions and the accountability. And let me pause. Folks, let me just make a pregnant pause here. Because what the Prime Minister said, and this is a good place to say it, and I'm quoting, is now that we have taken care of the compensation, we will move towards a well-articulated performance measurement and accountability framework. What that mean to you, Kabu? Performance measurements and accountability framework. It means we must be able to look now and tell how well you are performing. Here are the metrics and the indicators to judge that. And then the accountability framework that the Prime Minister referred to say, if you're not performing, we're going to have to hold you accountable. And the framework will tell Jamaica how.
And so that the bottom line is that this has not been done. None of that has been done.
None of that has been completed. We have a good start. 15 months, nothing happened. Neither the Prime Minister stepping in to say, well, go on. Not the opposition leader. Let me be very clear. Me cutting both sides. It's a parliamentary issue, and I'm tired of saying to Jamaicans, when I talk about parliament, for God's sake, Jamaica, don't hear government. Because the parliament has both sides, both parties in the House. And we are paying members of the PNP and the JLP to do our work for us. So when
and both
Jam
sides
said
received,
Parliament,
and both sides received the salary increases.
both sides received it,
So,
exactly.
understand
And
that,
both
yes.
have a duty to
Yes.
ensure that the government is, the Prime Minister is held to account for his promises. Yeah.
So you're saying the PNP hasn't raised this either?
Not one bit, no.
Okay. All right. So the call that JAMP is making to the Prime Minister, this has been out there for a few days. I mean, I read this last week, Sunday. So
Right.
we'd have you on this week. Have you had a response from...
None at all, not to date.
All right. So let's go on, because before...
From either leader. So we haven't heard an opposition come out with a press statement to say, and I know I'm going to sound overly generous, but part of our job, Kabu, yours, mine, and those listening is, okay, when me and you look at our schedule and see how it's full, I cannot imagine what a Prime Minister, a leader of government will look like. So if something slipped, it is perfectly natural for you and I and the listeners to remind the government. What the PM should be saying is, oh my God, thank you, JAMP. How could I have missed this?
Well,
and the opposition leader should
yes.
be saying the same and sending out a press release to say, we got it, we on it, but nothing to date.
No, I mean, it's deliberate. Nothing not over generous about that. It is totally deliberate. And the reason I'm saying this is the Reporters Without Borders came out with the Jamaica falling to places. I'm not even getting into that conversation because we shouldn't even have on no list at all, because there's a total lack of understanding about media and press freedom in Jamaica by Reporters Without Borders. But anyway, so them drop 2 spaces. And then already we've had the opposition coming out with a press statement. And we've also had responses to that press statement from the government.
Oh, look at that.
So that was pretty. So what is all this hullabaloo over that thing and nothing over this? It's been out for 2 weeks now. So something's wrong. You said before that there's some... this will be performance-based salaries, what you would have agreed with, JAMP agreed with, and obviously it is not happening. And you underscore that there are some MPs, some government ministers who really work hard. They're in their constituencies every day, and there's some 37%. You said you can name some of these people.
I can.
Please tell us what's happening here.
And I think it's important, and I want to say to your listeners before you do that, I have found of doing this job for 5.5 years, if I come here and I just say some, how that going to make any change, you know? So I want to be clear on why I am mentioning them. I'm happy to speak of one in particular. Kabu, let me just level with you now. Yeah. One of them not coming back to contest. So it's very easy to call name because nobody can say me scalda and mess up my chances at the ballot box. Okay. The other one that I have been using forever, but I've never really mentioned the name until recently, like about last year. I said, no, it's time to start telling the people. Is going back to the polls. But folks, I can't do anything about that. It's just the truth I'm talking, right? Yes. So let's begin with the People's National Party as an example. If you go to JAMP's website where we document very simple graphics for everybody to see how your employees, note my use of word, how your employees are attending the office, which is Parliament. Mrs. Hannah, for example, made an announcement about 2 years ago that she would not be contesting the elections, right? Well, what I noticed was an immediate drop in the attendance of Mrs. Hannah in the Parliament for, let's call it, they call it the plenary sessions, for example, the ones that are on Tuesday at 2. So we always are measuring 5 years back because we think somebody can have a bad year, so you know. Yeah. So let's look across the years to see what the general trend is. So let me just tell you, from 2019-20, Mrs. Hannah was at 87% attendance. 2020-21, it dropped significantly to 64. 21-22, it came back up to 72. And bam, in the very year of the doubling, it fell to 49%. That is below 50% attendance. And in 23-24, it was at 52, barely increased from the 49 to 52. We're waiting on Parliament to give us now, because the year just ended, for 24-25. So I can't tell you how well she did then, but I will shortly. So that's Mrs. Hannah. Took a nosedive, and not because you don't plan to come back. Doesn't mean that you can take funds and don't deliver to your constituents. That's an integrity issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we couldn't do that in the private sector.
You could not do that
I couldn't
anywhere.
Say to the man.
No, nobody with the smallest and biggest a job anywhere outside of government. As a matter of fact, I don't think a public official, a public servant would get away with that either.
Yeah, they would say take time off. If you need the time, take the time off without pay. And that is a generous organization. But go on.
And I want to be clear to listeners how Parliament define absent. If you're sick, you're not absent, Kabu, because you can't come.
Right.
So let me be clear that they don't count absences when you are ill.
Mm-hmm.
They also don't count absences if you are out on official government business.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So the next person that I found an interesting one to look at is Dr. Andrew Wheatley. Dr. Wheatley, I think, is contesting. I think we haven't seen the whole full list of candidates. I'm not sure. But from pretty much the week that Dr. Wheatley left the cabinet in 2018, that was it. It was almost, I'm speculating here, and I don't like to do that. I like to just give the facts and let the people decide. But it was almost as if that's what mattered, being a cabinet minister.
Mm-hmm.
So from 2019 to 20, it was 36%. Did you hear what I said?
No. I thought I heard you said...
You're bad enough. You just said bad. 2020 to 21, the following year, 37%.
Mm-hmm.
21 to 22, a bump up to 39%. And in 2023, it dropped back down to 37%. In 2023-24, the year after the increase, it rose to an outstanding 52%. I don't know what it will be, but because I, watch Parliament quite often, I don't think it's going to be significantly different in the last year. I haven't seen him that much. So here we have it.
Yeah.
One had been asked to leave the cabinet, and they're, why am I coming to Parliament? Because you have people who you have to represent. They're, go ahead.
To what extent? I'm sure you're watching the time and seeing that we have just a few minutes, but you're going to have to come back. To what extent is this of concern to the electorate? How are Jamaican people doing this?
So I'm very clear, and people might be saying, "Boy, Ms. Calder, what's the point at this point? Why you didn't raise it before?" Well, fine, that's a fair question. But here's why I think it is still relevant. There's no way I think the administration will be able to achieve all of this before election. But one thing I know they can do is the job description. And the reason why JAMP believes it's very important, not just to the country, but in terms of the timing for the electorate, is when you vote. I know we call it voting, but it's actually employing 63 public officials. That's what we're about to do. When they come and you knock on your gate, Kabu is a work that I ask you for. Be clear, okay? We're paying them. That means when you pay somebody salary, what does that make you? What does it make you? Employer-employee relationship. Right. So I am going to be employing 2 candidates are going to come and knock on my gate, and I have to make a judgment between the 2. JAMP wants Jamaica, and many Jamaicans want Jamaica to move beyond it. Is he in orange or is he in green to make a decision? We want better roads, we want good schools, we want beds in hospitals, and my view and JAMP's view is that the MP's job is the most important job in this country, barring none. There is no doctor, no farmer, no radio broadcaster. None of us can do well without good public services. Am I lying? No. If you get up and there's no water, sometimes Mr. After Mr. Jamie can't be, me no know me go come and work so. Right? So nobody with a dream is gonna succeed without good governance in that parliament. That's why it's the most important. Now, if it's the most important job, I want to select somebody. This is where I am in 2024 at 62 years of governance. I want to select somebody based on their capacity. So how am I going to do that if the Prime Minister and the team, the Parliament, both sides don't sit down and give me a job description, so when A or B candidate come, I can say, here's an example. Boy, I'm going to listen to Area FM, me hear, me know you want me vote, but me hear this JAMP lady and me hear Kabu talk, and them say, me own 146 public companies. Is that true? Them go have to go say yes, because it's true. We do. Then them say, me hear Ms. Calder say that one of your job description is that them NHT and Exim Bank and Jamaica Mortgage Bank, all of them bank here what we own, them have to send you reports. Now, you can read financial reports. You will know if something wrong. That's a question every Jamaican should be in a position to ask the person who's coming for the job in a couple of weeks, because that is a crucial task in the Parliament.
Yes.
Reading these annual reports, figuring out there's a problem, calling these employees in from these banks that we own, and saying to them, hold on a minute, I see this bottom line, what's happening? Are the people them own this in or talk to me? I can't do that, and most Jamaicans can't, because the truth is, Kabu, we genuinely don't understand what the job of the MP them, you know. We think we know.
No, but that is true. That is exactly true.
Nobody has told us.
Nobody has told us. I mean, we have an expectation,
right?
And it's scaled depending upon where you are and who you are.
Yes,
so we really don't know.
So the job description will make that difference in making a decision in a couple of weeks, and we should have it because we're paid $1.5 billion for that job description.
Yeah. I'll give you a final word to speak, because they probably never get your letter to the Prime Minister and also to and I know you can't call him directly, but this space is a whole different kettle of tea.
Yeah.
All the henchmen are listening, and women, to the Prime Minister and also to the opposition leader.
Correct. Yeah, what's the question? I'm sorry.
No, to speak to them directly about this call.
No, it's everything that we have said before, and we are simply saying this is something that, Mr. Holness, you said in 2019 you yourself had thought about it. This is something you committed to before. This is years of waiting. I think you made a good start, and I think we need to finish it. The people of Jamaica deserve this in order to step up, and for this to be the game changer that you said it would be. I agree with you. I support you on this. So we're simply calling on you to get that committee back into the House, Mr. Holness, and to finish the job that you started. I'm asking the Jamaican people who are listening, don't say, boy, Kabu and Jeanette, this is one good conversation, and I never seen it this way before. It's really important, that's not going to be good enough. Mr. Holness and the team, Mr. Golding and the team, they are accessible to you in a way that Kojo, Taki, Nani, Paul Bogle, Sam Sharp couldn't talk to a queen. Please go on their social media platforms and just say 7 things. Promise made, but promise not yet kept. We need those job descriptions. That's it. And change will come.
Thank you so much, Jeanette Calder.
Thank you.
Great work. We'll talk
anytime.
All right, Jeanette Calder there. And this is pretty serious stuff that she's talking about here. We remember the promises made. How soon we forget, though. Hopefully I'll be able to carry that next week. Thanks to the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for sponsoring the preceding hour. So the hour between 7 and 8 brought to you courtesy of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. You're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running Africa, and thank you so much for joining us in the forum. Oops, I was just going to go to a break. So let me do that, but I know that my sister friend is on the line. Let me just say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Grand rising.
Grand rising, my sister. So this is Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks. She don't like us to say doctor in the space, but we're congratulating every PhD. Let me take this moment to congratulate the Prime Minister for his PhD. Have you read a dissertation, Amina?
No, I haven't.
I'd like to see it and read it. I'd like to interview the Prime Minister on his dissertation also. I know you don't come to talk about that, so let me take...
But I'm going to listen when you do the interview.
You say, wait, Amina, come on. This is it. All right, Amina, so we're having a little technical issue, so let me just go straight into having this discussion with you, because May is Child Month, of course, and
yes.
In Tukuma, and our friend, our brother from Ghana and from the Akan people, Bernanke, not leaving it alone. They're going to be on it. So tell me about their plans, because I know that Ntukuma is planning to I'm trying to find help me, Amina.
A calabash to save the world. A calabash to save the world.
Yes, tell us
now
about
you say we plan it, but it's amazing how the script and what is going on right now in the world is coming together.
Yes.
So a calabash to save the world looks at the connection between our indigenous knowledge of our herbs and bushes and herbal medicines, and how our pioneering scientists have used that information. So we salute Cicely Williams from Westmoreland. We salute T.P. Leckie from Portland, and we salute Manley West and Albert Lockhart for their work in pioneering medicinal ganja.
And that is so true. We tend to forget that, Amina, don't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bring it back to the...
Bring it right
Yes.
back so that our children will know that when we talk about what has made Jamaica great,
Yes.
so we must include our contribution to science.
That's right.
And that they too have the potential to become great scientists. As a matter of fact, them mother and them granny were scientists.
Yes.
Why when them scald the milk, them put in liquor salt? Because that's the preservative.
Yes.
Why them put in liquor nutmeg in every juice when them give with a drink? Because they brought the knowledge of the impact of nutmeg on the brain from Africa.
Yes.
Now, when we do the research on nutmeg, we don't see Africa, We see that this is knowledge that the ancient Romans had. And we say, oh, yes.
Found on the tomb of Marcellus. Marcellus Romanus.
That's right.
Yes.
We say then hushpot. Get it from.
But the point you're raising there, I think is so critical. Because the first thing you said was everything is coming together at this point, and how important it is right now that it's coming together like this.
Yes.
Because as you talk about the herbs and our ancient ways of being, of healing, we're about, and we have been losing this, so that there is such a challenge to everything that we know, to our indigenous knowledge regarding health and healing from outside. So we're looking at the Codex Alimentarius, we're looking at the GMO, we're looking at how we're using Roundup, we're looking at all of that is being thrown at us. And so, how talk to me a little bit about your thinking on this, because this is part of preserving that knowing, that way of knowing that
and we have ignored it. So the play is a combination of Jamaican folk songs. I want to come back to the African story that we have reworked in this way.
Yes.
But in the combination of Jamaican folk songs, when we went researching to say what are the songs available to us to use in this production, we find Joe Ruggles and the mystic revelation of Rastafari. Fever grass, it grew in Africa. My forefather was a witch doctor. Them same was a damn fool. And now them teach the very thing in school. Give me back my language and my culture. So that song and a Nancy bringing scientific wisdom down to earth is not disconnected from the fact that we have one of 35 World Heritage Sites that combine the use of plants and herbal medicines and the culture of the people. It named what Nanny did in the Blue and John Crow Mountains that caused that area to be so declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. So when we decided to include that in the production, we also saluted Africa using the UNIA anthem.
Yes.
Ethiopia, the land of our fathers.
Yes.
Let Africa be free.
Yes.
In the middle, you know how long we start the rehearsal? And in the middle of this rehearsal, let Africa be free will come up on the 30th of April and Burkina Faso.
Look how goose people just take me. You see this good? My head just raised. Yeah, good. Yes. So this is what we call synchronicity. These are the energy. These are the frequency.
Free, advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, the black, and the green. So we're playing. Yes, so may I chat for a minute?
No, go right. Go right. You have about 5 minutes.
Okay. So,
Go right ahead.
we open on the 15th of May,
Yes.
and we play until the 30th of May. And there are some special days. The Wednesday to Friday, we play at 11 o'clock in the morning because we want school children to come in.
Okay.
And we are mindful that some of them going to come from far, and we are mindful that teachers have a responsibility to return the children to school and sign them off and say them come back. We are mindful of that. So we start at 11 o'clock to give teachers enough time to go back to school, account for the children, and whatever arrangements they have for getting home.
Brilliant.
And then the Sundays of the show, we have declared that this is the intergenerational, bring your family and come. So bring a child and come, bring your uncle and come, bring anybody and come. But the 25th is Africa Day.
True.
And so we're saying when you come, and so the Sundays are at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
When you come in that day, dress up in your African regalia.
Wow.
We're going to celebrate ourselves.
Yes.
Celebrate the fact that ginger and turmeric did help us through the last epidemic.
Of course. Oh,
And
goodness.
where that
It's true.
Yes. And where that came
Yes.
from, and
Yes.
salute the knowledge we brought from Africa and introduce our children to Cicely Williams, T.P. Leckie, and Manny West and Albert Lockhart.
All right. It sounds really, really good. A calabash to save the world. Written.
Right.
Written by...
Supreme God.
Yes.
Written by Amina Blackwood.
Written by Dr. Amina Blackwood Means. Let's get that out there.
Yes, the
And-
Supreme God had given Anansi a calabash of wisdom to bring down to earth. I think many of us know that story, and we know it through European eyes.
Yes.
So we say, how Anansi greedy and all of these things. Well, we have done our research with the people where Anansi come from, and there is an African perspective to that. We know what the Supreme God put in the calabash that Anansi brought down to earth. He put in like a science, like a technology, like a engineering, like a art, like a mathematics. The people them now who are discovering how we should teach, calling that STEAM. And we are saying a long time we'll do that
Yes.
because we brought it with us. So it also has teaching methodologies embedded. The play lasts about an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so come prepared for that. And the time again, it's Wednesday.
11 o'clock during the week.
Right. So
And 4 o'clock on Sundays.
it's Wednesday. It's Wednesdays to
Wednesday to
Sunday.
Friday.
Wednesday
to Friday. We're not playing on Saturday.
Okay, so Wednesday to Friday. And then
And we
again,
play on
on
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, right. So Wednesday to
Right.
Friday. Wednesday to Thursday, not Wednesday to Friday, not Saturday. And then
Right.
again on Sunday. And
Right.
at what time? Let me just quickly say the time again.
11 o'clock during the week, 11 in the morning,
Right.
and 4 o'clock on Sunday. We are not averse to someone calling us to say, but I have a whole group that can only come on a Saturday. We're not averse to that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that would need to be specially booked.
Yes. And not for we are come from country look like we are go Sunday.
Don't it? Yes.
Yes.
Dress up and come. I am so excited about what
Yeah.
we're going to look like on
Yes.
Africa Day.
And-
Which can I just say
I was just
something,
going to talk
sister?
about that. Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
I want to say that it used to be called African Liberation Day when African countries were fighting for their independence.
Right? Oh.
And we took the L. We took the hell.
Yeah, we took the hell out.
The hell need to go back.
Yes.
The hell, we need to give them hell.
We need to
The
give...
hell
Oh, goodness
need-
gracious. We
Yes,
need to give
the
them
hell
hell.
need to go back
Yes.
in it.
Yes.
Because they have not left us alone.
Yeah, the Africa Union
And we are-
the Africa Union did that. The way they said they were no longer the OAU, and so they were changing a lot of things. So I do agree with you 100%. So a lot of us still say African Liberation Day, Liberation Day. Because we're waiting for the liberation and we're fighting for the liberation. By the way, I saw you out there.
In all my glory.
on the
That
battlefield on behalf of Burkina Faso.
It was an awesome day.
Yes,
it was an
it was.
awesome day.
Yeah.
And what was awesome about it was the numbers of people who stopped to say to us,
Yes.
Who is Ibrahim and why is he on that?
Yes.
People from bicycle, you know.
Yeah, we get that too in Amobe. I think you don't get
All
that.
right.
So we get that in Amobe, and people are saying, what is this for? And so who is Ibrahim? And but look here, what I loved is just how Jamaican people just change up his name. Ibrahim Torres.
Yes.
Abraham Toure.
But we know who we are talking about. A rose by any other name is still a rose.
Mr. just said that this morning in a negative way.
Yes.
I mean, this is very interesting. The quote you just used, I said it this morning to say that whole quote is wrong.
Yeah.
This is very interesting that the quote come back. But, and I know you never hear it. But it comes back.
Yes, but as my friend Shareen Mackenzie would say, you see all the things that we say, let we put them down again and look upon them and see what that it really means.
Take them out and look upon them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was really brilliant, and I listened to, I think you were interviewed for a minute there, for about 6 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. I know it's 6 minutes because I tried to share it on my YouTube, my TikTok, and I keep bouncing.
Oh, bouncing.
So I know it's 6 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm editing and sharing. And you talked about this within the wider context of liberation in the very same way that you have been doing here this morning. And you were one of those, I texted you to say, you were one of those who draw away up when this thing start happening. Me particular, you draw, because you send it to me and I tell you something, I watch it, and you said you can't just watch it.
Right. And we need to learn that we are not too small.
Yes.
And sometimes the most important thing that we on this part of the planet have is our presence.
Yes, true.
Be present. Mm-hmm. We have a responsibility to be present. And the next thing is to speak. Yes. So we have a presence and we have a voice.
Yes.
Use it.
I do agree. What you have in your hand, use it.
Yeah.
Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, thank you so much. I'm going to come to Calabash to save the world because this is over a period of time, and it's in the middle of CXC exams for those young children who are taking CXC, and they're breaking sometime around the end. There's a big break for those for the science students. I know that. So I'll be heading into Kingston for this. Thank you so much. And
also the grade 6 students who are just waiting for exam results to come out. Bring them come, no teacher. Bring them come, please.
That's right. Yeah. Ease the burden a bit, the pressure of them a bit.
Yes.
Thank you so much, my sister. We'll talk to you
again.
Bless
you, my sister. Yeah, man.
Right.
Bless you. Walk good.
A crushing election defeat. Australia's opposition party has been left reeling after a bruising defeat in yesterday's federal election, with a result that is shaping up to be its worst ever loss. Peter Dutton, the Liberal Party leader, also lost his own seat, which he had held for the past 24 years. And that is, I don't know why I find it funny, but can you imagine? Anyway, maybe it's not, it's not funny, but I'm laughing. Anyway, so BBC says Labour's landslide victory means the Liberal Party is now scrambling to find a new leader and figure out what went wrong for them this election cycle. There's also an election in Canada where Carney won, and everybody's all over themselves about this Carney win. Carney is he is an agent of the World Economic Forum. You do know that. I said to you a few weeks ago that the World Economic Forum, we have globalist technocrats. So we have a globalist technocracy, or globalism and technocracy coming together. And that is what was frightening about the whole thing. So here is a globalist who's also supporting and actively participating in this new technocracy, which is leading to transhumanism. That is Carney. He doesn't differ so much from Donald Trump. You know that, though. They're taking two different roads to the same place. So them go Ochi Market, one a walk on the bypass, and one a take the highway. We call it highway down here, one little road. Anyway, but they're going to Ochi Market. That's basically what's happening. Carney and Donald Trump going to Ochi Market, which is to say that they're really not that different. Two parts, same outcome. A lot of people are going to be shocked with this Carney thing. And it really didn't matter who won. It would have been two roads, maybe the same path for the conservative man, but It is what it is, and I'll literally break that down another time. But Carney is the agent. He is a World Economic Forum personified. So Canada is not in for anything better than what Canada has gone through under Justin Trudeau. As a matter for May 10 through to Sunday, May 11, I really love the auto shows. I just tell you that straight off at the top of my head. I'm not going to hide it. The Jamaica Auto Show 2025 is set to host the largest number of new car dealers in the modern history of the local industry, shining the spotlight, they say, on the latest technologies, vehicles and innovations available to Jamaicans. Well, I don't know, because my car tell me when to stop for coffee. Like a bop, 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 coffee, just a coffee flash on the thing. Like it's time to done. What else is going to happen now? I think, okay, it must be EVs and so on. I don't know. And then I think this weekend is Miami, right? F1 is this weekend? Right, busy? busy?
yeah. You're the sport today. Yeah. I like the culture side of you, I tell you, when you interviewed that lady this morning, I would really feel good, Being away for the past 2 weeks, I was at Prince. Mm-hmm. The worst pens I've been to many, many years.
Yeah, we're talking to Busy, by the way. Busy Campbell.
So, you just up there, Roger. It's onto Maryland, which finished yesterday.
Yes.
Sunday.
So what you say, so what was the worst one? Worst pen relays?
I'll tell you, the way they change up the events on a Saturday, the ladies one on Saturday and the men one on the Friday most. But then again, I believe it's because Toyota is the sponsors. When it was Nike, it was much different. Because you saw the rest of the world, Jamaica, what they call America versus the rest of the world, Canada relays. They haven't had that since last year, I think. But what I said in attendance, it was poor. But I think what add to that, I can tell you, because a lot of friends that I know, because of this ICE thing and immigration thing, a lot of people, stay away.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I share that with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I tell them the good thing, I'm a citizen of the world. I go anywhere. One can't tell me. But I'm not live here. That's all. I'm not live here, Jamaica.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say,
Sweet Jamaica, nah, left here. Aki and saltfish. No, well, Aki and tofu.
When I came back, 1970 when we went to Haiti and played Santos in the club championship. That time it was good.
Yes.
Because I remember Philippe Bob, Omax, and some men. One was still in Miami. And when I saw them in 18, I feel it. I feel like tears come to my eyes at times.
Yeah.
And I've been to Pakistan, India with cricket and all, Australia, New Zealand, and they are the top team, the top world beater, you know what I mean? But look at Jamaica, I'm tell you, Sister Kabu.
I know.
I'm talking to you and I just reflect.
Yes.
With the other day, about the Bob Marley One Love. And I must tell you, I appreciate the support you gave.
Yes.
And, coming up Labor Day, we always have to bring back the love.
Yes.
But this year, because of the Premier League final, which will be on the Sunday, the 25th, they brought it forward to the 23rd, which is Labor Day. So I have to put mine to 25th.
And of course, this is why we wanted to talk to you quickly about this. And, I just got some goosebumps because I'm talking to you, I'm looking at my phone, and I see a brother writing me from Kinshasa. And, I know you and I talk a lot after the program, more time and so on. But when we make these kind of connections, and the brother is just say, hail up, hail up the brethren, hail up. And he's writing from Kinshasa. And this is a kind of global reach that sports has, that music has. And when you say Jamaica, the power that this nation packs, it's due to a large extent to the talent of the people of Jamaica. It's always that. So this year, tell me about the upcoming event.
Bring Back the Love. Started in 96.
Yes.
When the Prime Minister called me after the Bob Marley One Love out at Avenue. Contacted me and Admiral Bill said, want to have a game for the people. And when I said, yes, entertainers, they're going to master. Yeah, fine. And I endorsed it. But the only thing, when he said it was free, I said to him, but basic school, I want to help in a boss. and Admiral Beale, he was the one on the Olympic in Trinitarian. I have one in the East and Glenmore named Just for Kids. So I said to him, I want to put 2 pounds at the turnstile or in the gates and let the teacher come. He said, no problem. I'm really glad the idea came up that people could donate to the cause to help the kids because they're the future.
Right.
When I used to go to school, you know.
Yes.
So this year we're having a game. It's on the Sunday, it's not the Labor Day. It's on the Sunday, 25th.
Yes.
And we'll be honoring people that people don't know. We honor people in that category who believe uplift Jamaica, you know?
Yes.
Inspire Jamaicans.
So who are the honorees this year?
This year, you should know. I think, you know, and Mr. Samuel, Bert Samuel is one.
Bert Samuels, Pan-African attorney at law, Bert Samuels. Morning, Bert. Yes.
Mr. Charlie Edwards is about football. He's a person who's in charge of Barbican football. Yes. He has invested a lot and he has done a lot for football.
Yes.
And Alicia James, she's a player for Jamaica. She's right now coaching, what do you call it, Olympic assistant coach, Olympic. They're in the Super League last 4, you know, they're in the semi-finals. But I think she has done a lot. Yeah. And she must be recognized, you know?
Yes. And once again, just, no, go ahead.
It's just a time of you on the 25th, the Sunday instead of the Friday, which is Labor Day.
Right.
Because the Premier League will play on Friday, we play on the Sunday. So I just reach out to whoever can support. It's all about helping the school kids and the basic school. Last time I had to make a decision with 3 primary schools with computers and bags, you know. But, you know, I always say everybody need help. Regardless of who has to be, we need help. And when I listen to you at times, I tell you, give me more strength to go on.
I'm glad that we're strengthening each other. Thank you so much, my brother, because your work also does that for me. So thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch. We'll talk closer, and I'm going to link Bert and congratulate him. Congratulations, Mr. Bert Samuels, Pan-African attorney at law, on being given this award this year. Thank you so much, my brother. Busy. Coming in from the pen relays.
Coming in from where I don't want to go again. I'll be honest with you. I mean, this is, you know, and everyone have a right to that.
So you're not go back?
I don't feel
you're not going back? You know, okay.
Unless other people really...
I'll talk to you next year this time, and we'll see.
All right.
All right. Give thanks, my brother. See those waves? All right, brilliant. Greetings to you. Safe travel, Ras Jomo there in Buffalo. Greetings also to Imani, who I met at Sam Sharp Square on Wednesday, that march against AFRICOM and for Ibrahim Traore, the AES, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. He has given me some documents, which just let you know, my brother, that I've gone through the documents, how to use the ANC, and I will certainly make a connection with you. Greetings to Magi and Ras Magi and Jazazai. Magi, I did send you a text. I don't know if you got it, so text me back, please, my brother. But also, yes, we've had a chance to go through the documents, listen to the stuff, and we'll also be linking you shortly. Magi, my brother, greetings. Greetings to Puffy and the brethren, to the brethren in Great Pond. Thank you so much, Puffy, for all that you've done in the movement, in the spaces, just for Jamaica and the globe. The work is phenomenal and profound. So morning to you, Marlene, my sister, and Puffy. Can I go to the phone lines to speak with my next very special guest, Ocean Sharon Paris Chambers. How you doing, my sister?
It's my pleasure to be with you, Ankh Sanab Ujad. I'm learning. Theo and I are here to welcome you and your global listeners.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Big event coming up. It's annual because it's been going on for a few years, but it's a big event that's coming up on next week, Sunday, on Mother's Day. Which you obviously are one of the organizers of this event. Talk to us about it. This is also going to be including some honorees, but it's wider than that, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. The very foundation of what it is, recognizing the divine nature of women as queens. And it's not the people that makes the queen, is one philosophy. it is her awakening the realization of who God created her to be. So we're recognizing their work, their iconic work, and we've come across 10 persons. We'd love to mention them and then give the details. We've come across a Gama Gloria Sims, a Paula Surtees, Kabu Mahat Peru, a Mama Lily Jayad, Banaya Zina Selassie, Juliet Dunbar, Dr. Diane Robinson, Joy Logan, Vanessa Tribar, Jessica Mbangini. In memoriam, we are going to honor her for her prophetic vision and spiritual vision as an Mbongi. Now, some of these names are people we don't know, but they're sheroes nonetheless, and we are going to honor them for their greatness. So on Mother's Day, at the Temple of Inner Peace, which is an oasis according to co-founder Denise Isis Miller, whom you all know very well, is a place that's hidden away in West Cliff Estate, the deep west end of Negril. Temple of Inner Peace is looking forward to honor these women May 11th, 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. And we'll have a keynote speaker, Dr. George Love Imhotep, Kemetic priest who's on the island as of yesterday. He will be our keynote speaker. And we also have Theo Chambers now, who will speak to you more about this event.
Happy day. How are you?
Greetings, my brother Theo. How are you doing?
From 1 to 10, I'm doing a 20.
That's brilliant. All right.
I'm enjoying my free oxygen, so we need to understand that first.
There you go. They're bottling it in China. All right. Yes. All right. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the event. But before you do, quickly about the Temple of Inner Peace.
Yeah, the Temple of Inner Peace is an environment where there is a no meat zone. That's number one. We have the birds, the nature, the environment. There is absolutely
botanical plants.
Yes, we have healing plants and so forth. It's very, when you come there, you will want to call your family and say, look, I'm not coming home tonight. I'm hanging with the Temple of Inner Peace.
Yes.
When you go there, you swear to God that you're back in Kemet, back in Egypt. They have that atmosphere, energy and vibration. The birds come and the birds sing with you and enjoy, so forth. And this event, it is by invitation only because we only accommodate about 30 people.
Okay.
It's complimentary. Food and drink is all complimentary. We are paying for everything, and we just want to have a beautiful relationship with.
So that if you don't get, so just for listeners to know, if you don't get an invite, do not head to the Temple of Inner Peace until you're not coming back home. Right? So this is by invitation only. This is not open to the public.
Not this Sunday.
Okay.
But after this Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday we will be open every day, and it's free.
Okay.
Always free.
Okay. So people can come throughout the week. Every day you're always open for persons to just come in. But for this event on the 11th, which is Mother's Day, this is by invitation only, and it's between 11 a.m. and
3 p.m.
Right. Can persons coming afterwards in the evening for anything, or it's Sunday? It's just by invitation only for the entire day.
Yes, for the entire day, invitation only. The capacity of the place is limited, so we have to, and then people can stay if they want until sundown, watch the sunset if they want.
Because we're there.
And because of this show, Theo is saying he'll take 10 more people. The telephone number to call, the first 10, 876-275-3169. And we are looking forward to those calls. 876-275-3169 to introduce people to this hidden oasis in Western Jamaica with these beautiful Kemetic pictures.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Oshun. Thank you so much, Brother Theo. We'll hear much more from you. And by the way, congratulations again to the ladies who are going to be the queens, who are going to be honored on Sunday. Thank you so much for the honor. Thank you both so much. And we'll talk again.
Congratulations to you. One love.
Right. Okay. in this time. It's all falling into place. It is a demonic system. It's a devilish time. It is a cruel, insidious and sinister system that they're about to unfold on us. But it has various elements, and the language that they use is all the same. Bureaucracy, efficiency, productivity, sustainable development, Vision 2030, Agenda 2030. All of these little slogans, they've got a whole lot of them that they're just rolling out. They're all connected. They belong to the very same structure, this umbrella of, which is really globalism, technocracy, and transhumanism. This is basically what we're entering or what we have entered. So we're wondering where the Caribbean is on this. The Caribbean is, lockstep. Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister, is lockstep. I want you to listen to this, and then I'll come back, and I hope this is it. All right, let's listen to this, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about it.
Jamaica address its public bureaucracy. We have gotten caught into this culture of analysis paralysis. Yes, who will seek to say that you are corrupt, that you are trying to circumvent procedures. But what they are really wanting to do is to hide behind a wall of circuitous regulation that leads to nowhere. And in my mind, that is the corruption. It has no bearing on whether or not things are delivered quickly, whether or not the farmers benefit, whether or not the customer is served, no benefit to them. And we are going to destroy that. We're going to break down that wall of unnecessary bureaucracy. Things that don't make sense. Entities that have been formed and are on the public's budget year after year and can't show what they give to the public, those allocations must be questioned. There are many government entities that claim your taxes. They live only to serve themselves. When you ask them, why I have to fill out this form? Why I have to do that? Why this? They can't tell you. They just say, well, it's the law. And for those who are quick to be critical, just sit down and listen. Because Jamaica is not the only country going through this. We have to rethink the dense layer of bureaucracy that we have placed on our public servants. They don't want to innovate or take any risk, lest their names be dragged mercilessly in the public domain. That is not going to help us grow. There are those who believe that they can deal with corruption by shaming people, destroying people's reputation. But they will never speak about inefficiency. They will never examine a system for its inefficiency. And what costs us as Jamaican taxpayers is inefficiency. Oftentimes, the flip side of corruption is inefficiency. And if you want to deal with corruption, deal with inefficiency. Treat with the systems that move slowly. Treat with the systems that have circuitous regulations. Because in systems that are efficient, there is no room for corruption. Because efficient systems, by definition, are transparent systems. So when we talk about addressing the bureaucracy of Jamaica, we want to make our bureaucracy transparent. We want performance to be evaluated so that you can see and match effort to outcome, so that there is no secret veil that separates someone's effort versus outcome.
All right, that's the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And of course, he talks about a paralysis of analysis. And, but it's a term I use in this space a whole lot, because yes, we might be in danger of that. He talks about inefficiency and efficiency. He talks about bureaucracy. And you'll be forgiven if you thought that he was reading Elon Musk's speech, because Elon Musk is the same way him talk, and Doge is literally has gone out and done literally what the Prime Minister is here talking about. But it's part of what has to happen for what has already happened and what is being rolled out. We're not saying that we support it. What I think we need to do is to understand the importance of understanding what is about to hit us in the faces, because we are not so concerned with these kinds of, use the word circuitous, it's not a literature review. So I won't necessarily go into the use of words and so on from that perspective, but just to say we can find ourselves in that position for true. He's talking about this need to tackle and to cut bureaucracy. This is what everybody's saying. Every country in the Caribbean, all of the Western countries are saying this. Sometimes we're so caught up looking through this narrow tunnel of the spaces in which we occupy. But the world is now not what it used to be, because artificial intelligence and the convergence of the digital technologies have ensured that the borders and the barriers and even the law are restricting or restrictive as they used to be. Things have changed outside of COVID because we gave away a lot of our rights. Globally we gave away a lot of our rights during COVID. Every country. The UK might have been the worst if you ask me. Canada was terrible in terms of how they just agreed with everything that government said. Even though there was a demonstration at one time, the truck drivers, remember those truck drivers? But generally speaking, we just said take it because we don't want to die from COVID. What is so? Anyway, I don't want to veer off path too much, but just to say that what the Prime Minister is talking about is a broader global strategy, which includes digital transformation, and he talks about streamlined governance. But it fits into Agenda 2030. Everything that he says has to be done before Agenda 2030 is implemented. There are technocratic elements in this bureaucratic reform that he's talking about. We're talking about technocracy. I wish that we'd do some more reading. I'm on air once per week, and I can't I can't go as deep as I would like to. I would need more time to kind of flesh out technocracy and transhumanism. But because we've been talking about all of this since 2020, and I know that we've got a lot of new persons who have come on, and people who didn't pay much attention during 2020 either, because it was just so alien at the time. Somebody asked me, what is transhumanism? If transhumanism had to do with sexuality, just to show you how far we are from understanding what is being ruled out on us. So to go back to the Prime Minister's speech, digital transformation initiatives, he talks a lot about that. This is going to have to happen. But for that to happen, you have to get rid of the bureaucracy and you have to tackle inefficiency. All of that means you're going to have to look at the human capital. And what are you going to do with the human capital? Take a look at what's happening in the United States of America. Because it don't matter how many EV Tesla cars you burn, or how much CNN spend 15 hours talking about one story regarding Elon Musk, or even the fact that Elon Musk is stepping down in another few days. The question to ask is, did Elon Musk achieve what he went to do at Doge? How many agencies were scrapped? How many people were made redundant or lost their jobs? What did Doge do exactly? And then you have to kind of peel away everything from CNN and everybody else who's reporting on this to find out what really happened. We know that the education department literally was scrapped. And lots of people lost their jobs. They're not going to get them back. A very similar thing is going to happen here in Jamaica. People in the public sector are going to lose their jobs. There's a reason for that. It's because of the digital transformation initiatives that the Prime Minister is talking about. The establishment of the Information and Communications Technology Authority, consolidating eGov Jamaica Limited and the Office of the Chief Information Officer. He talks a lot about efficiency, and we had the appointment of Senator Audrey Marks as Minister without portfolio for efficiency, innovation, and digital transformation. They are telling us what they're about to do. And this, of course, reflects what the technocratic approach. So when we talk about technocracy, we see Jamaica moving now to put that into play. So I want us to pay some attention to that. What is the mandate of Senator Audrey Marks? Do we know? Jeanette Calder was on earlier talking about MP's performance job description. Now, that's one thing. But we also have some ministers with some portfolios that are strategic to moving us into the new economic world order, or the new world economic order, the new world order. This is basically where we're heading. But it is already defined for us. This is not our vision. It was never our vision. Agenda 2030 was never our vision. We've been saying that from the minute they published this agenda. I don't have to go over the whole thing. But Agenda 2030 is being fast-tracked. And all the players are on the board. No matter who resigning. Even if Pete Hegseth resigned today, all the players remain on the... Even if Warren Buffett steps down, he has to step down. Even if Klaus Schwab steps down. It's interesting because there are going to be two conclaves. One in Rome and one in Switzerland. And you'd be surprised at who is behind the new hire at the World Economic Forum. And who will be behind the ultimate hire at the World Economic Forum. It is all in place. So, you know, the more things change, the more things change. All right, so the question I'm asking, what's the mandate of Audrey Marks? And we've heard before about speed. Yeah, them upon speed. Streamlining the process for efficiency and economic development. That initiative. The reforms that we just heard the Prime Minister talk about in the public sector. And if you listen closely, we have to spend some time listening to the people who matter, who are talking. The Prime Minister is not hiding anything really, you know. He's saying it loud and clear, but we're not paying attention. The focus on leveraging technology for transparency. You see how much time he said transparency and efficiency? Well, this really is a shift towards the kind of decision making in which data, analytics, and technological tools are going to replace human beings. And that don't sound bad. I'm sure it's not sounding bad to you. It's sounding like, wow, but technology is good. Well, globalism and technocracy and transhumanism. It's funny because these two things, globalism and technocracy, shouldn't really even be used in the same sentence, because on the face of it, they would oppose each other. But somehow, this satanic beast system that they're about to unfold on us, to roll out on us, it is the beast system. Technocracy is a beast system. Somehow it has managed to swallow this idea of globalism. And so all the globalists are on board, and that is why Carney out of Canada is so dangerous because he's chief globalist. But look at what he said in the papers yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah. He talked about being a globalist with a technocratic agenda. He used those words, not my words. A globalist with... Let me see if I find it, because I have a tendency to save these things when I see them. So let me see if I have that. But the point I'm making is that somehow these two satanic systems, which is a beast system if there ever was one, are coming together, have come together, and they're creating a system that's going to blow our minds. And we have not made the choice to be free. We're making a choice to enslave ourselves. This is basically what is happening now. I'm seeing that I saved an article saying that there's a breakthrough in Neuralink, which is connected to this that I'm saying. The point I'm making about, transhumanism. Elon Musk's neurotechnology company, Neuralink, has received a breakthrough device designation from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, for its speech restoration device. The company took to X to post about this achievement. And Elon Musk said, "We have received breakthrough device designation from the FDA to help restore communication for individuals with severe speech impairment." And it goes on to say, the company claims that the device would help people who are affected by amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, stroke, spinal cord injury, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, and other neurological conditions. Remember, we told you at the beginning that this is what they're going to say that Neuralink is doing. It is purely for health. But the very same thing that is using for health and telling you about the neurological this and the that and all of this is really to put a chip in people's brains and to have the chip correcting all of these things and to move you now into man and machine together, which is transhumanism. So so those who can afford to will be chipped because people want to be chipped. So those who can afford to will be chipped. And later on, you're going to be forced to be chipped whether you want it, yes or no. And you won't be able to buy or sell unless you're chipped. And this is not to be not calling down an apocalypse, but anyway. So, right. So I'm not able to find that article that I was talking about. I'll get it another time. But before we went into the break, we were talking about displacement and reskilling of public sector workers, because Andrew Holness has said Jamaican workers do not have the skills. And so that even though he says, get the skills, right? He's saying we might have to import the skills. And this is where the displacement is going to come in. But importing the skills is not just, on the face of it, yes, it looks like that. But a lot of the skills are going to be digitized and streamlined. And we'll find them in automaton. Everything. So all of these tasks, administrative tasks, in all of these public sector jobs will be displaced. The clerical and the mid-level bureaucratic roles, very vulnerable for redundancy. And this need for reskilling that the Prime Minister is talking about. How are you going to reskill? Digital literacy, data management, ICT competences. If you don't do that, then there's going to be mass unemployment. So we have what we call a technocratic tension. So efficiency, you notice how the Prime Minister stressed efficiency. Efficiency trumps tradition. And efficiency is going to come. And when we say technocracy, let me just make something straight. When we say technocracy, we're not just talking about technology. technocracy also involves it's the technocrats who now run government. It's not the usual politicians that you know. It's a technocrat, the expert, like a Dr. Fauci. Remember Dr. Fauci? He was the chief technocrat of the COVID era and the people with him. And they determined everything. We got it from the WHO, we got it from the PAHO, we got it from Dr. Fauci, we got it from, all these technocrats determined our entire lives for 2 full years. That was a test of technocracy. It is fully in place. And my concern is that the Prime Minister of Jamaica is ushering in technocracy and a technocratic government where we're going to be seeing a lot of displacement without any safety nets. And we're going to get cussed out for it. We're going to say that analysis of paralysis or paralysis of analysis and circuitous and all the PhD words that the Prime Minister sound like him have a PhD. The Prime Minister is talking over our heads. Him have a PhD. Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like you to talk to me directly because, I do not understand the language you're using, sir. You're talking over our heads. I'm sure that people who are listening to this conversation about bureaucracy and efficiency and circuitous and paralysis of analysis, nobody don't know what you mean, Prime Minister. Not for we not have no PhD, sir. You have to come back and talk to the people. We're going to see displacement without safety nets. We're going to see exclusion without equity. We're seeing that already. We're going to see efficiency without empathy. We're seeing that already. Unless, and I don't know if we can get that in, we're able to pair this technocratic reform that we're heading along with some stronger social policies, with a commitment to the labor rights of the people, to inclusive education. But we're going to feel some pain. We're going to feel some pain because there is no way to go but where they're going unless we the people, because we the people can always stop this. It's artificial intelligence, it's all on everything. Agenda 2030 cannot be achieved, will not be achieved unless all these countries globally adopt and implement artificial general intelligence, unless we reach singularity. It's not possible. But Agenda 2030 was always about sustainable governance and sustainable government. Remember, we've been talking about Agenda 2030 from when? Remember that it was from the 90s, isn't it? And when I started saying it is not our vision, this has nothing to do with us. Because when I started doing the research for Vision 2030, in the mid 90s, I think it was, when I started doing the late 90s, when I started doing the research for this, I recognized that Jamaica wasn't the only, they were rolling it out in Jamaica as if it was our vision. And then I found out that everybody have it. Barbados have it, Trinidad have it, Guyana have it. Every single country in the world was talking about Vision 2030. Then I said, they're not full vision this. It is not our vision. So I started looking at it. And then we had a slogan, Jamaica, a place to raise children and be happy. Work, raise children and be happy. Something to that effect. And I kept saying, we lost sponsorship for it. Remember, we did lose a big sponsorship for it because I kept saying, it is not our vision. This is a nightmare. Because when you peel away the curtains and look at it, this is a global takeover. We can't just wake up one morning and have the same vision. Even though it's where there's no vision, the people perish. But a full vision is, it's a beast system that they envisioned. And then the World Economic Forum told us that you will have nothing and be happy. That was the next phase of Agenda 2030, Vision 2030. So they're all working in tandem with this. Jamaica has been working in tandem with this for the very longest time. And here we are. Now the United Nations, they've all said, because they're rushing now, this is a race to 2030. And they have to complete it, the smart cities. By the way, if you want to understand what is about to happen, all you have to do is look at China. Remember that. Remember. They're already rolling out the unique identification of all of their members of society. This is and was an integral part of technocracy, you know, this element of technocracy to real. They're talking about the real ID in America. They're talking about the real ID. Well, the real ID has been the Trojan horse for the very longest while. So this is basically where we're heading. If you want to know what is going to happen in this part of town, in this part of the world, look at China today. China has a dystopian mega city. That city is making half of the world's laptops. This metropolis of 30 million, where the workers do not see sunlight, where they are under 24/7 surveillance. But we hardly hear about that city. China has more than one smart city. Check it. The smart cities in China are up and running and doing, by all technocracy standards, very well. And we don't talk about the digital currencies yet. Let me take a break. Cuba, you know, when the more sanctions you face and you have to survive, is the more necessity is the mother of invention. So both nations, Iran and Russia, they don't really use a SWIFT system anymore. They have transitioned out of a SWIFT system. I think America thinks it's you know, and the Bretton Woods Institution, that they had something over their heads. But they have managed to bypass the US dollar and the euro. So they've got a direct interbank transfer mechanism going on between them. Then we have the BRIC nations, the BRICS nations. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. I know it's not holding up, but it's still in place. And the bank is still in place. And they have the Iran in there on the side. They have the UAU. And these are actively developing financial mechanisms as we speak to reduce their own dependency on the US dollar. So, and this is why we had to march for Burkina Faso, because Burkina Faso has a gold. And this is why they killed Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was using the gold to bypass this entire system itself. They couldn't allow that. And they have killed many others for the very same thing. So it really is more than a trade war, and it's more than a Cold War. This is a time of change. It's a time of change. We are in the middle of a great change. So what we're seeing with the BRICS nation, we have Iran and Russia that I said just integrated their banking systems and facilitating other national currencies in this. And we have China with the CIPS, and China had something else that they just come out with the other day. Was it what? RISC 5? RISC-V, RISC 5? Not quite sure how they pronounce it, but let's look up RISC 5, because that's something else that China has done in terms of developing its own chip, which means that it is totally, more or less, almost independent from the West that has been trying to stifle it. So we have the China cross-border interbank payment system, and this is gaining traction as one of the alternatives to the SWIFT system, because the SWIFT system was always a system that they used to oppress, colonize, and enslave nations, you know. So we see China doing a whole thing with over 17 trillion in 2023. And it is still smaller than the SWIFT, but there is rapid growth there. And there's also a shift towards the yuan-based transactions. And also we're seeing the RMB doing its thing. It's phenomenal what's happening in China. We'll talk about that another time. So yes, the SWIFT system is being challenged by China, by Iran, by Russia. And these countries are actively developing and promoting alternatives to that system. So we're watching that. The Iran-Russia integration, the China CIPS, the India also have a unified payment interface, a UPI. And this is also expanding internationally, we understand, with partnerships in countries like France, the UAE, Singapore, and so on. This is just to give you an idea of how the rest of the world is setting itself to challenge the status quo, the structures that we know. So all this talk about tariff and Doge and the whole thing, of course, it's in relation to all of what's happening otherwise. But the big change is coming because it's a change of baton, it's a change of guard. The central bank digital currencies, we see those emerging. And obviously, these are going to be significant disruptors. Jamaica has been out on this. We're looking at the Enbridge project. Enbridge project, look at that, because that is a collaboration between central banks from China, Thailand, the UAE, Hong Kong. And it facilitates this real-time cross-border payments. And they're using CBDCs. Also, the SWIFT system has its own CDBC initiative that is proactively integrating also into its own network, and they've been through sandbox testing with 38 global institutions. We'll talk about that. There's also RippleNet. RippleNet is collaborating with central banks, including Montenegro, to develop CDBC solutions using blockchain technology and standardized messaging. Look those up, and we can talk some more about how we are entering this new world economic order. Who is leading it? Because we're seeing this multipolar financial systems. And I know I've heard people saying, no, let's not use multipolar, but this is what it is. This rise of alternate payment system is a big deal. Then we're seeing the geopolitical realignments, countries like China, like Russia, like Iran. That is also a big deal when it comes to the new world economic order. I know I'm rushing a bit. We talked about the technological advancements, and we were talking about the adoption of blockchain and the digital currencies, which we see happening. Where Jamaica is on that, there's a lot of reporting on this. The Financial Times, the Washington Post, they've been covering this. Reuters. If you go through those, and granted they're coming from the West perspective, so you have to go to CGTN and RT and so many others to kind of get a better handle on what is happening around us and then to say where we are. I know Jamdex is what happened here in Jamaica. So while we're not, listen now, let me just say something. I'm not agreeing with any of this. I'm just kind of laying it out to say that the change has already happened. We are way behind time. We hear the conversation from the Prime Minister. He's also thinking about smart cities. It is what it is. It is going to happen unless we can stop it. But what are we going to stop? Because we don't even know what we're supposed to be stopping. That's a big deal. I can tell you that it is a beast system. This system is a beast system. A system of technocracy and transhumanism. It is what it is. It is run and controlled by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence that is sentient. It is what it is. And no joke about it, the US dollar, it's been king of global finance forever and ever and ever. But we're seeing an exodus from the dollar. We're seeing a change. De-dollarization is happening. It's not a fringe idea. It is strategic. And even America, I mean, what Trump is doing, he says he's resetting the table. What does that mean, resetting the table? He uses it a lot. He's resetting the table. What does he mean? And then I just like to say out of the Caribbean, I really want to look at the economic impact of to Jamaica and the Caribbean of our own vulnerability to the US dollar, our dependence on the US dollars. What are the implications for stuff that we ourselves have so invested in, for example, tourism and remittances and so on? Because there is a shift, and I'm not quite sure if the region is prepared for this shift. Jamaica, the Eastern Caribbean, countries like the Bahamas. We know we have the sand dollar in the Bahamas, and we have the D-cash in the Eastern Caribbean. But there's still a lot to say about financial education, digital literacy. We're still fighting for equipment, chalk and talk equipment in some places, much less. And we had a test during COVID. I hear the Minister of Education and the JTA talking about artificial intelligence and how that can work in schools. I would say it can't be so hodgepodge and hocus pocus and just over here, so just dashing things. What is the strategy? What is the plan? You can't just roll out AI there, so, and AI over there, so, and throw some tablets over there, so, and people dump them phone, give away, and we take it. That's not going to work. That is a formula for slavery. What is the strategic plan that we have for ourselves? Not just in education, but generally agriculture, manufacturing, self-sufficiency. So if you have some strategic recommendations, we probably need to put pen to paper, start writing to the editors. And by the way, my brother, Yannick Pessoa, has written an excellent letter. Thank you, K. Azikwe, for sending me that. It's in the Observer, yesterday's Observer. Really good letter talking about the readiness of the Caribbean and Jamaica for this new spaces that we are, or the new order. So if you can find that article, let me see if I can tell you what the, let me look for K-Dot. K-Dot, are you able to look at yourself with the article? It's called The Silence of Our Leaders. That's the title, The Silence of Our Leaders, in May 1. It's in the newspaper, May 1. And it's written by Yannick Pessoa. And, so he's asked some really great questions there, talking about Jamaica's economic model, how this is heavily influenced by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And he said it seems to dance to a tune played by foreign orchestras. Our GDP, he says, sings a song of remittances and foreign aid, a melody that might be titled Dependency Waltz. And he says the public, however, is not oblivious to these dynamics, as the sidewalk palaver and the social media chatter attest. Jamaicans are keenly aware of global shifts and are eager for their leaders to take a bold stance. The likes of Traore, Patrice Emery Lumumba, Congolese politician and independent leader, Julius Salamalema, South African politician and founder of the Economic Freedom Fighters, are celebrated for their courage and conviction, qualities that seem to be in short supply among Jamaican leaders. So he's really putting geopolitics, that geopolitical tension we talked about earlier, and whether or not Jamaica and the Caribbean are paying enough attention, but also saying at the same time that Jamaicans are pretty much aware. So Yannick Nestor Pessoa, that's in the Observer for May 1. By the way, we're talking about the brother Yannick Pessoa on the conversation. I'll probably ask him to come and co-host with me on this one. But I'll spend some more time at a later date going through these geopolitical tensions, but also looking at where Jamaica seems to be heading and asking, I think that we need to ask of the government, because of the language that the Prime Minister is using, what's a plan? What's a plan for employment? What's a plan for agencies? What's a plan for customs and traditions? What are the plans? Because it seems to me as if you're saying that Jamaican people are unskilled, that too much inefficiency in the system, we're not arguing with that, and you couple inefficiency with corruption. This is the same thing we hear from Elon Musk. And at the end of the day, the standard and the solution used by the US to cut bureaucracy and inefficiencies out of the system is really to just fire a whole heap of people, redundant a whole heap of people, and lock down a whole lot of agencies. And that is what I'm concerned about. What is the plan to facilitate the entrance of the beast system, which is to say, it is transhumanism, it is technocracy, it is what it is. So we have a lot to think about going into the week. I'm sorry to be leaving you with this kind of unfinished argument, but it is unfinished because I myself am trying to figure it out. I understand very well what technocracy is. I see it unfolding before my eyes. So that I understand. I also understand very well what transhumanism is. And I see that unfolding before my eyes. And that's the reason why I say that this is a beast system because of what it is. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you heard, but OpenAI also have now received, I spoke just now about Elon Musk and Neuralink and what they got, but OpenAI also received, I think, some patent or patent for eye scanning. It sounds. Let me see if I can find it and tell you what it is. Sam Altman, of course, is OpenAI, and so OpenAI, Sam Altman's eye scanning orb is coming to the U.S. is a headline. So it says it's an identity verification technology, and it will begin expanding to the United States May 1, that's a few days ago, and it will launch a phone-like hardware device by next year. Those changes and a promised world-branded debit card signal the company's ambitions to develop a super app. And Elon Musk is way out ahead with the super app, right? Because that's what X is. X is a super app similar to what they have in China that does everything. Scan your eyes, scan your hand. You use it to pay for everything. So China has been using that for years. So too is South Korea and other places. So basically, the device and app combo scans people's irises, creates a unique user ID, stores that information on the blockchain, and uses it as a form of identity verification. And basically it goes back to what they're saying from the World Economic Forum, which is you will own nothing and you will be happy. Because everything will be digital. You won't know, well, I suppose you'll know where it is, but it won't be physical, right? Because so the fiat is going. That's why you really need gold and silver and stuff like that. You know, you're supposed to be. I keep telling Beginner we need to be stacking up on gold, Mr. Bigay. We need to be stacking up on gold and silver. Just that we don't have no money for buy it. But seriously. So this is where we are in the larger scheme of things, which is to say that the change that we are talking about has already happened. Do some research on China and South Korea and so on and see what's happening there. Because if they've already got it, I don't know what we're talking about here. We're kind of fighting like we don't think it'll happen. Yes, but it's already happening. China is way out ahead of us. China is in, China is in 2077. Right? They're living in 2077. We are still trying to reach Agenda 2030, but all of it is going to ensure that people like us, and when I say people like us, the African diaspora that is not prepared, continental Africa that is unprepared, because we still have to get prepared on continental Africa. The good thing about continental Africa is everything is there. In terms of the minerals, in terms of the land, in terms of the water, we can feed ourselves, and we can do that in the Caribbean too. But we are preparing ourselves for slavery. Just look at how we're dealing with the tourism industry. And that tells you a whole lot. that we are preparing for slavery. It's time now to hand over to Mr. Bigay. It's exam time, and it is also so to the students who are doing CXC, children who are doing, what else is out there? CAPE. All the best to you this week. I know exams start for a lot of you tomorrow. Some already had Spanish orals, so I know you're going into an intense 6 or 8 weeks. A lot of you are doing extra classes. Big up the teachers who are not charging for extra classes. Some schools, we understand, are charging for...
You are now charging these students extra for your tutoring. That is totally
I don't know.
5,000 upwards per day per subject.
Per day, per subject.
Right.
And this is the thing that really boggles the mind, because yes, we know that, and we're getting this from credible sources, that there are schools in Jamaica that students are doing their CXCs and they're sent home on study leave because CXC start this week. Then you're called back to say, come back for extra lessons.
Right. Come back for a tutorial or whatever
For
it is,
tutorial.
whatever it is
Right.
that they call them. Right.
Yes.
During school hours, you have to wear your uniform.
Right.
You go to school.
Right.
At your usual time.
School is not on holiday yet. It's
Right.
just
No.
it's just this grade, this cohort that have been sent home
Right.
on so-called
Right.
study leave.
Right.
Right.
And then you're calling them back and charge them.
You're calling back to school and you charge them. But look at the exorbitant prices that they're charging. What 3,000 per? As low as 3,000 per.
And it goes up.
It goes up.
There are instances of, I know personally of instances of $5,000 there, and there could be more. No, when you look at a graduating class of, say, 100 is reasonable, or 80, right? And you are, let us say it is an elective, right? Like say chemistry or physics or accounting or which one of the electives.
Right.
And so you might have a 30, 40 students enrolling for that, and you're charging $5,000 per student for 40 students.
For 40 students.
No, look at what.
So this is why you said it's fraud. It's scamming.
Well, of course it is.
It's scamming.
Right. It is right.
And why are schools allowed to do this? How do schools get away with this in Jamaica? We're gonna start calling school name. We're gonna challenge the schools to return the money to the pit and we don't call the name.
No, for real.
Or we can call a name. But this is a challenge because you're doing this. I know schools that call back students and to say, okay, let's ensure the curriculum is totally finished. Like, for example, your council did that, but they didn't charge.
Yes.
They didn't charge at all. Right?
And that
so by the way, let me say, sorry, Bigay. Let me say your council never charged before anybody goes, let me say your council charged. Your council didn't charge 1 cent even when they called back the students for tutorials.
Right. And that is commendable, and I'm proud to be a Yorkist myself.
There you go.
But there are other schools who are doing this.
Especially Kingston schools. And some of the top Kingston schools are doing it too.
Right.
The very top Kingston schools. But why? Because where do you get off charging, calling people back, calling students back during school time? You send them off on study leave. Because if you said to the parent that, all right, we are behind with the curriculum for whatever reason, so we're not going to have the usual study leave.
Right.
So we just need them to do an extra week and a half.
And it might not necessarily even be behind. It might just mean that you want to smooth out some of the rough spots that you believe that they didn't get as clearly as they should. So you probably want to go over some of the the challenges that you believe that they might face.
Weaknesses in the
yes, whatever reason, you call back these students because remember too, I believe that the teachers like the students are ego driven too. When you have a student body of 30 students and all of them pass with grade 1,
it is, and it make the school look good too.
You look good to make the school look good. So it's bragging rights.
Yes.
So you have a lot to gain from
exactly
that. Right.
So why charge 3,000, 4,000, 5,000? What the most, you know? What the highest you heard? 5,000?
Yes, I had heard a figure a little higher than that, but it was corrected to me that it was that figure that I was told was incorrect. So $5,000 is the highest
per day.
Per day.
It's per subject.
Per subject. Right.
And how many days were those students called in back for?
I don't know. The student in question that I know went to two of those classes.
That's 10,000.
Right.
One lick.
Right.
No.
Right. No. Two different subjects. I think one was 3 and one was 5.
Either way.
Any which way.
Either way.
It was two different subjects. Right. And they claim that these are marathons. So the student will go in and they have like a 5-hour tutorial or a 6-hour perhaps with a little lunch in there.
But your castle does that.
So
and the teacher don't charge. They don't charge anything.
No, but
how can some school not charge?
But you shouldn't charge at all.
No, you shouldn't. I know. I mean, let me say it's scamming.
It is
scamming.
It is on school hours. It is on school time.
Yes.
I mean, there is no reasonable explanation in my mind.
No, there isn't.
Unless there is something happening that you and I don't understand.
No, there is no. No. Me no so dunce. There's no because it is scamming. It is the teachers found a way to make money off of the back of the students, but you can imagine the pressure.
If it is the teachers per se or the school in general, I don't know.
That's even worse. But can you imagine, the pressure that the parents are under?
No, and that is what hurts me.
Because you pay for the exam too, you know.
That is exactly what hurt me. It is the kind of pressure that you put the parents under. And let me be clear, Kabu. I believe that teachers should get, as the song says, $1 million a day.
Yes.
Teachers should get.
We're not disagreeing, right?
We're not disagreeing with that.
Yes.
We're not disagreeing with that. We know of the economic hardships that everybody faces,
yes.
And teachers in particular with the kind of pressure that they go under, the kind of work they put in. Teachers deserve a whole lot.
Yes.
Right?
And we champion teachers all the time. In this space and you.
No, of course.
So we understand. On a different level.
On a different level.
But this is scamming.
Yeah, man. This should not be on the backs of poor people paying.
Yeah, man. This is scam. This is straight scamming. And it has to be dealt with. And can we just call on the Ministry of Education to kind of find out what's happening? Because this is not a make-up story. This is something that we know is happening. Or else we wouldn't even be talking about it. We don't have any doubts. If we had any doubts, we would have said we're here. Allegedly.
Right.
But this is something that we know is happening. And you don't even go to the graduation yet. Because that's our next whole story.
Kabu, I don't know why you wake me up this morning.
I don't know.
No.
You know?
That is another sore point. That is straight money making for the school.
Yes.
That is a straight money making event.
It's ridiculous for
the schools.
Yeah, man.
It is crazy.
It's oppressive.
No, it is. And because they know that these students are all worked up and the parents too for this grand graduation process. Right. They use it to milk the system.
Yeah, man. And you know what's from the photograph package, because some photograph package now for you take before graduation now is some of them are 20,000, 30,000. They're pretty expensive, and touch the gown, you have to pay for the gown, and when we can understand that you pay for the gown, then you have the parties that come afterwards. Well, the prom, them calling it in some places now.
A lot of these schools have their own venues, but they charge you for a venue. No, they have their own auditoriums. Hold on now.
And they charge you for a venue.
They have.
Yes, that's true.
They have bought the